Some women do not chase, and yet they live forever in a man's mind, not because they scream for his attention, not because they fought to be chosen, but because they understood something ancient. That absence can burn hotter than presence. It is in the quiet after she is gone that his mind begins to echo, and in that echo, he starts to see what he once ignored. She is not a storm you can predict. She is not a river you can dam. She is the kind of woman who moves like dusk, slow, inevitable, and ungraspable. Jung would have called her the anima in its most refined form, the inner feminine that stirs a man's soul, the mirror of what he lacks but longs for. Yet, unlike the projections that make men believe they know a woman, she is dangerous in her self-possession. She has met her own shadow and did not flinch. In the modern world, she walks among noise but remains untouched by it. She listens without revealing, sees without being seen, desires without being owned. When he first met her, he believed her warmth would always be there. He assumed her patience infinite, her love unquestionable. That is the nature of the ego, to mistake access for permanence. In the early days, his interest was instinctive, almost animal. He wanted to possess the source of his fascination, not realizing that fascination dies when the mystery is solved. And so, unconsciously, he began to test her, pulling away, taking her for granted, letting silence grow between them like unattended vines. He did not know that in those spaces, she was changing, not into someone else, but into more of herself. One evening, she stopped explaining. No fight, no warning, no dramatic scene. Just the soft closing of an inner door he could not see. Jung wrote that what we would draw from the outer world, we give to the inner one. In her absence, she began to feed the parts of herself she had starved for him. Her voice grew steady. Her boundaries hardened, not in cruelty, but in self-respect. He felt it before he understood it. A subtle coolness in her touch, a new stillness in her eyes. The man, untrained in loss, mistook her detachment for a passing mood. He tried to provoke her, to draw her back into familiar dance. But she no longer played the role his unconscious had cast her in. Projection works like a dream. It feels real until the dreamer wakes. When she stepped out of the image he had of her, the illusion cracked. And in that crack, he began to see not just her, but himself and the emptiness he had been hiding from. It happened slowly. A memory surfaces. Her laugh in a cafe, the way she watched the rain, the exact scent of her hair in autumn air. He begins to notice the hollow in his life where her presence used to be. The silence becomes heavier than words. And here, the Stoics would say, absence teaches more than presence ever could. While he replays old moments, she is standing at the edge of a cliff at dawn, not literally, but in the space of her mind, she is watching a new horizon open. She has learned to value the soil of her own being over the approval of another. In trauma psychology, this is the rewiring of attachment, the shift from anxious seeking to grounded self-containment. She is no longer fueled by the fear of loss. She is sustained by the certainty of self. When a man realizes the object of his projection is gone, the pursuit begins. It is not always about love. Often it is about restoring the self-image that her absence has broken. He calls. He appears in places he never used to go. He speaks words he once held back. But she, having seen the deeper truth, knows that words are not the same as change. Her strength is not in rejecting him outright. It is in knowing she does not need to decide today, or at all. Silence is her ally, not her weapon. Jung wrote that the process of individuation, becoming whole, requires withdrawing projections we place on others. She has done that. She sees him not as savior or destroyer, but as a man wrestling with his own shadows. Seasons pass. He learns to live without her, but the trace of her remains, not as an open wound, but as a scar that reshaped him. She, too, carries his memory, but not as a weight. She walks lighter now, through markets at dusk, by rivers at dawn, through cities and forests and empty rooms. She carries only herself. The woman who walks away in silence isn't weak. She simply sees more. And once you see more, you can never go back to seeing less.